hear me, and I am a loudmouth, but I would like to have a voice after this because I'm a good singer. No. There's a typo on this slide, so let's just address that first. That is no longer elite green status. So it was very exciting. What a wonderful time, and I could not be more excited to celebrate it with you guys right now. So raise your hand if you identify as an introvert. Even just raising your hand feels hard, right? Where are all my introverts at, right? There's a decent amount of you in here. Now go ahead and put your hands down. I'm not going to call you out, but now think about how many of you have been diagnosed by a doctor. Probably not very many, right? Because we use WebMD, we feel this fear, and then we hear about being an introvert, and suddenly we start to think, oh, I'm an introvert. I'm an introvert. Well, me too, girl. I'm an introvert. I have struggled my whole life with talking to people, with being up front and center. And what I've started saying over like the last year was I'm an introvert in recovery. And that kind of helped stimulate a little bit of my journey because if I'm in recovery, then that means I'm getting better, right? So if we could take the next slide, please, Tyler. So one of the things that happens many times with us is that we diagnose ourselves on WebMD with everything. So we've all got cancer, we're all going to die tomorrow, and you know, you just have no hope. I'm sorry. Just say your goodbyes. Let's take the next slide. Okay. So what happens when you believe that you're an introvert and you haven't been to the doctor? Now I know that there are some people that have been diagnosed with social anxiety, and we have these things and these stigmas that we have to deal with. But many of us don't have that. And I'm going to explain to you why. When I had this epiphany, it changed my life. So the belief that you are an introvert without a doctor's note saying that you are means that something is inherently wrong with me. When I say I'm an introvert, it means I'm wrong. It means I'm broken, right? When it means I'm broken, it means I was born like this. I'm unfixable, right? And there's nothing I can do about it. So the moment I identify as an introvert, as the moment I identify with social anxiety, what I'm saying is deep down inside, in my core line, I am broken. In my DNA, my genetic makeup, I am broken. And that feels unbearable. That feels like we're never going to get where we need to go. And that is sad. And I'm going to fix you. Everybody's going to leave out of here not being an introvert. Can I take the next slide, please? So once you realize, right, like I don't have a doctor's note, I'm just an introvert, you have two choices. The first choice, can you go back to yes, thank you. The first choice you have is just to accept it and be like, you know what, my life is what it is. I'm just going to take the cards that I've been dealt, and I'm not going to do anything to change my life. The second option is to say, F that. I have a choice, and I realize I'm broken. Now what am I going to do to fix it? How am I going to change my life? How am I going to take ownership of what's wrong with me and do something different with what I've been given? Right? Because that's where, that right there, that seed of belief that you have the power to change it is what is going to be the catalyst to transform everything you've ever dreamed of. Okay, so what I did when I realized that I was not an introvert, that actually I was probably born an extrovert. Because think about it. How many kids do you know that are like super shy? Not many. If you go onto an elementary school playground, those kids will come up to you, they'll start telling you about their dog, they will spend 42 minutes telling you about a 27-minute show. They love to talk. We are naturally community-based people. We need network, we need connections, we need relationships, right? So once you realize that you probably just learned, let me ask you this question. Finish this statement. Children should be seen and not heard. Exactly. So from the time you were little, you have been conditioned to believe that you are not allowed to talk, that you should just be sitting down and being quiet and don't make too much noise, don't be too loud, don't color on things, you know, your parents molded you, God loved them, they were just trying to do their best with you. Just like think about your kids, right? There has been nothing more embarrassing to me than when my kid had a total meltdown in the mall. Right? Like, it's so embarrassing. You're like, oh my God, my kid, what are they thinking about me? Shut up. I know I'm not the only one. Don't pretend. So, if that's true, right? If you can look at babies and see that they are not either shy or extrovert, like they are naturally talkative people, then what went wrong? And that's what I call the shame discovery. And I'm going to be very vulnerable, and I'm going to walk you through what I did in my life and where I found the moments in my history that told me over and over again to be quiet, to not talk, to just sit down and look pretty. All right? So if we can take the next one. And I want this, I'm going to give this to you because this, I feel like, is the tool to unlearn everything that you've been taught. When I realized that I was not actually an introvert, that I could possibly have a nice personality and people might actually like me, I went through what's called the shame discovery. And I'd like you to write that down because if you feel like an introvert, I want you to take this home as your homework. I remember very clearly when I was in the Army. I signed up for the Army and I was in basic training. And I was 20 years old. And I was very excited because I was finally starting to feel like a grown-up, right? Like I navigated my life. I was signed up for the Army. I was going to be strong. I was going to learn hand-to-hand combat. I was going to be amazing, right? And I was standing in the barracks, and the female drill sergeant said to me, "Do you know all you ever do is talk? Why are you always talking?" And that cut me so deep. I will remember this for the rest of my life. I went to the bathroom, and I started bawling. I'm talking about that kind of bawling where you're doing the ugly cry and your face turns so red and half the tears aren't even coming out. It's like that quiet, like before it like just comes down, right? I was so ashamed and so embarrassed because she said it to me in front of everyone. And I was trying to find my voice. I was trying to become the strong soldier, and she shamed me for talking. That was one instance, right? So I'm going to talk to you about how all of those instances pile up until suddenly you believe something about yourself that's not true. The next thing, one of the ways that I know that I was not an introvert by nature is because I remember very clearly the thousands of sentences that I had to write in elementary school. I will not talk on the bus. I will not talk in class. I will not talk on the playground. I will not talk here. I will not talk there. Green eggs and ham. Sam, I am. Like everywhere. I was writing sentences all the time. I will not talk. I will not talk. What was that doing? That repetitive sentence writing was telling me, stop talking. Stop talking. Nobody wants to hear you. Nobody cares about what you have to say. I'm going to go through all of them. Church camp. I went to church camp when I was 12 years old, and it was actually a pretty good time. But the first time I get there, the first night, I get the little bunk in the corner because, I'm shy, and I'm going to go all the way in the corner, and I get up in the top and in the corner, and I fall asleep before everybody else because I didn't know anybody. So I just kind of fell asleep. And the next morning, I woke up, and they made so much fun of me because I talk in my sleep. And I said, catch the lightning bugs, everybody. Catch the lightning bugs, right? And the whole camp, I was the lightning bug girl, right? What does that teach a 12 or 13-year-old girl? Don't talk. Now I'm embarrassed. Now I'm shamed. Now I got to go through this whole camp, and everybody's looking at me, talking about me. And once again in my life, I found myself on the outside. Okay? And when you're on the outside, you become a wallflower. And when you're on a wallflower, the longer you stay there, the deeper your roots go. And the harder it is to get out of that. Okay? I went to 12 different schools in 12 different years. I was always the new girl. I was always the girl that nobody knew. And half the time, for my entire elementary school, we lived in the hood. And so I was the only white girl in the whole black school. So I was the minority in minorities because we were broke. We were poor. I grew up on welfare in Section 8 and HUD housing in a trailer, just like Amber. And so I was the only white girl in the whole school. So now, not only are we all poor, are we all broke, but now I'm the one that they get to pick on, right? Because I'm the odd man out. So I spent my entire elementary school career just trying to not be seen, just tiptoeing around. And then I go immediately, my mom, middle school, moves us to a 55-acre horse farm out in the country. So here comes this wigger. That's exactly what they called me. Because I can dance, I can move, I picked up some things in the hood. Nope. So I get into this 55-acre horse farm, and I'm going to this school with all white people where there was only one black person, and then there was me, who wanted to be black, is what they thought. right? So again, here I am on the outside. Here I am again, looking through the window at people having fun, wishing it was me, but too afraid to say anything because everything that's happened in my life up until that point told me I should not be talking, told me I didn't matter. So I was in and out of foster homes. That's another compounding element, right? When you're a foster kid, you are basically implanted into someone's home. You are a foreigner. You are on foreign territory, and no matter what people say about the foster care system, they will never love you like real parents are supposed to love you. They're just doing what they feel their religious mind is supposed to do, or they're, I mean, I've always thought about being a foster mom, but you're taking these broken kids and inviting them into your home, and so you're always going to be guarded. You're always still going to be protecting yourself. So no, they didn't love me there either, right? I wasn't accepted there either. I was on the outside. One of the biggest shame discoveries for me is, I've talked about this many times, I went to the Safe Haven retreat, but I had to testify against my stepdad for everything that he had done to me. And he ended up getting 10 years in prison for the abuse, which that says a lot about what happened to me. I don't need to go into details, but my birth mother sat on his side while I testified in court. And if there isn't anything that tells you that your voice doesn't matter, it's when your own mother decides that you don't matter, that you're a liar, that you're wrong. She chose him over me. That was just another compounding fact that I am not allowed to be who I am. And the last one of the elements, was all the abuse that I had growing up. We lived in a trailer park, and I'm being so raw, you guys. I hope you understand. I'm not trying to buzz it. She's like, get them all hyped, and I'm like, So I go out to play, and it's the middle of winter. I'm in my coat, and one of the little boys says, do you ever brush your teeth? No, actually, I don't have a toothbrush. I did not have a toothbrush. My parents didn't have a toothbrush. So I just told him, no, I don't have a toothbrush. My stepdad came barreling out of that trailer park, snatched me up, took me into that trailer, and kicked my ass for telling that little boy that I didn't have a toothbrush, which was true, by the way. So now I'm being taught that even telling the truth is not okay, right? I'm sharing all of these instances because your homework is to go home and go through these things. Start to look for all the places that you've been shamed, all the places that you've been told that you were wrong or not good enough or not brave enough or not special enough or you weren't loved enough. And no instance is too small. I had a full page. Don't discount anything because they all matter, right? And what happens when you do this? It helps you learn what your triggers are. Do people know what triggers are? Most of us do, right? Triggers are when you have these deep-seated feelings like PTSD and things like that, and when you're in an environment, something will happen and it'll trigger you, right? So once you realize that you're not actually an introvert, but that you've learned to become an introvert because society has shamed you, your family has shamed you, your friends have shamed you, now you can look for those triggers. You can look for circumstances like I always have this big insecurity about around people that are educated. Because I have a GED. I dropped out of high school. I had to go back and get my GED later. So whenever I'm around people that have like degrees, like whatever they've got, it always makes me feel inferior and it always makes me clam up. Like for some reason, I'm not good enough to talk to you because you paid $50,000 for an education that I couldn't afford. So now I know that about myself. Now I know that that's a trigger when I'm around people that are educated. So I can start to help myself work out of that feeling so that and remind myself what I'm capable of. Remind myself of who I am and what I have to give. And it has nothing to do with my education. It does not make me less. But I had to find the triggers. So look for them in your own life. What are your triggers? Is it around men? Do you feel like you got to sit down and look pretty? Like, because as society, men have been the dominant force. Sorry, dudes in the room. Men have been the dominant force. Women are paid less, right? We're treated with less respect in our workplaces. And we're just now, we weren't even allowed to freaking vote until 80 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have just this societal expectation that women are less than men. So we've got all of these things coming against us. And the sooner that you can do the work, peel back the onion, start to look areas that are going to trigger you, then you can start to create a plan of attack. All right? Let's go on to the next slide. So, retrain your brain. That's what we need to do, right? Once you realize all of these things, you've got your good list, what are you going to do? Retrain your brain. You have to teach it that my brain was conditioned to believe that I wasn't good enough, smart enough, and that what I had to say didn't matter. Every single one of those things, that's what I was just saying, shamed me. They made me feel terrible. They made me feel like I wasn't good enough. Ultimately, I learned it was safer to stay quiet. Here's why. People are motivated by two things, pleasure and pain. When something pleases us, we will do it over and over and over again to get it over and over and over again. That's why there's people get addictive personalities, right? When something hurts us, we will do anything we can to never feel it again, right? So all of those things, all those times it hurt me, now I've got this life in front of me where I'm trying to tiptoe around on eggshells so that I never get shamed again because I'm avoiding the pain. We are motivated by two things, pleasure and pain. And when it hurts, we will do anything we have to get out of it, right? So now what we need to do is do nice things for our brain, to realize that speaking up doesn't always hurt, right? Find the pleasure in it, because then you want to do it over and over and over again, right? We want to flip it from being a painful experience to a pleasurable experience, and this is how you do it. Sorry, I got a lot of slides. Roll that beautiful beam footage. All right, how to move forward. The first thing, number one, hands down, stop claiming it. Stop saying, I'm an introvert. Because every time you say it, you just reinforce that belief inside of yourself. Stop saying it. Maybe you just start to say, I'm an introvert in recovery, right? Because at least then you've acknowledged it, and at least then you're starting to dip your toe in there. Stop claiming it. Because we have power over our words. We have power over our actions. And every time you say, I'm an introvert, you're only solidifying it deeper into your core belief about who you are and what you are made of. Okay? Don't be afraid of baby steps, right? You're not going to flip a switch. You've got years of bad programming that you have to undo. Years. I'm 38 years old. I was 35 when I signed up for Unique. So you think about that. I had 35 years of bad programming, of people treating me wrong, teaching me the wrong things. I have to unlearn that. And it's all done by baby steps. You're not just going to wake up tomorrow and be like the most extroverted person on the planet. I still find myself taking a back seat when I'm around certain people. I get nervous. I get scared. I go through all the feelings. Use affirmations. So one of the things I started doing is to help me is I say things like, I'm going to go in this room, because I don't want to go in there, but I'm going to go in this room and I'm going to meet somebody that's really nice. That's what I say to myself. I'm going to meet somebody really nice today. And so rather than thinking about all the things that could go wrong, I am now honed in to find that one nice person. So my radar is scanning the room. Who's nice? Who's nice? Who's nice? Rather than what I normally would see is, she don't like me, she don't like me, she don't like me. I lost her a long time ago, right? But now I'm looking for that one nice person. And sometimes all it takes is one. One person to be your friend. One person to like you for you to feel good about what just happened, right? See how that became a pleasure? You leave that room and you're like, oh, I made a friend today. It doesn't hurt anymore. Now what if you just add a new friend every time you go into a social environment? You go into a house party, whatever. I'm going to find one person that's nice. I'm going to find one person that's friendly. I'm going to look for the person that's smiling the biggest because they got their mind right. Okay? Lean on other people for support. There are people that love you, but if they knew that you were suffering the way that you are, they wouldn't want you to do that. So let them be your wingmans. My husband is a peacock. Hands down, he is one of the biggest personalities I've ever met, and for the longest time, I would just ride behind him and let him break the room in, and then I would just kind of go on to the side, right? So lean on the people that you know that are extroverts and let them use their current to pull you into those environments, right? Don't resist. I have a friend, she will get on a bus of strangers at the Ravens game. She asked to drum the drums at the Ravens game from the band. I was like, who goes up to the band and asks if you can play their drums? But she is a true extrovert. So what I did was I aligned myself behind her and said, you clear the way, and I'm going to start following, right? So I started to relearn how to do that because I don't know how. We've never learned how to be it because we've always been told to sit down and be quiet. We've never learned how to talk to people. Raise your hand if you would rather send a text than call somebody on the phone.
Oh, for sure.
Exactly. Because it feels safer, right? It feels safer. Those phone calls, then you actually have to talk to people. So we are socially dumb because we don't know how to network. We don't know how to talk to people. The problem is this business requires that you have to learn how to talk to people. All right, so personal development is, everybody's going to say it till we're blue in the face. There is nothing as transformative as personal development because it's only about you and working through your shit. I've read 47 books in the last 2 years, and they have all been some way, and none of them were Harry Potter, no offense, or any of that. They have all been something to do with making me better, making my business better, making my family better, some way, making my finances better. They've all been designed to help me be a better person. All right, so personal development is huge. And the last one, and you might not realize how often you do this, but don't give anyone power over your voice. When someone shames you, let that be your new trigger. Let that be the thing. Oh, I need to back away from this person. You ain't in my circle. Become the owner of your space. You decide who you let in. So if you let in those negative Nellies, the people that are shaming you, the people that are treating you poorly, you have the power to say, no, I don't want you in my circle. Right? And then what are you going to do? You're going to open yourself up to attract more positive influences in your life. I never had this much love in my life. I never had this much support in my life. I've never been able to walk into a room and get hugs and photos and had my butt grabbed and like all these other things. I've never had that before until I found Unique. So it was the gateway to fix myself and to relearn who I'm supposed to be in this world. And if you listen to my podcast, you'll know at the end I always say that I want to leave you on a good note with a positive quote. So if we can get that last one here. Maybe the journey isn't about becoming anything. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so you can be who you were meant to be in the first place.
Yes.
Yes.